Okay, we've got one heck of a show for you today. So Trump is being ordered to pay over $360 million for his case being overseen by Judge Engoron. We've got the House that could be changing its composition due to illegal immigration. We have the Electoral College that could be changing due to illegal immigration. We've got cartels flooding middle America and rural America at epic levels. And then I'm going to talk about something that is very, very, very important that gets very little play, or at least not enough in my mind, and that is the erosion of some of the most important institutions in our country. And I'm not talking about the federal government. I'm talking about the family, the church, patriotism, our national sovereignty, the justice system, the public square, all of these things being eroded. And they've been eroding for decades. I want to talk about what we can do as concerned citizens, as proud Americans, as freedom-loving Americans, to fix these problems and to move our country in the right direction. This is going to be a great show. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it. I'm Jared, and this is Continue Freedom. And welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X, Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. I have a call out for all my return visitors. I have people that are coming back and watching my videos over and over again. Just hit me with a hello from, and then put in your city and state. I just want to know where you all are. So I'm always looking at feedback. When you are trying to make YouTube content and Rumble content, you want as much analytical information as you can find. So I'm always seeing how many people are returning, and I get some really good return guests. I want to hear from you all down in the comments section. Thank you for all of your support, and thank you for this little channel it's growing. We're going to make progress. This is the year to do it, and so I want to thank you all for being on board with me. Let's talk first off about Donald Trump. He says, this is from the Post Millennial, one of the greatest news outlets, I believe, on the internet. It's small but mighty. This is Russia. This is China. Trump slams criminal judge's ruling in the New York civil case. So in this case, for those of you that don't know, they were valuing, Engoron is the judge. And if you need to know what that judge looks like, here, let me show you a picture of this guy. And it kind of, a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can kind of see this guy, pretty angry leftist judge. But anyway, he had valued and said that Trump's property was valued at $18 million. Now, I'm not 100% certain where that assessment came from. I believe part of it was just off the cuff for him. Other people say that it was tax filings, or not tax filings, excuse me, that they were tax assessments. If you do not know how a tax assessment works, the city or the state or whoever is going to pay people to come in, and they're going to do an analysis of the property. They're going to give it a value, and that is how much that property is valued according to the city, so that you can pay your property taxes on it. The problem with that, and I have experienced this personally, these people do not know what they are talking about. Oftentimes, they don't even go into the properties, and so they will throw out just random dollar values. And in our instance, where my wife and I had a small commercial property, they said that our property taxes were going to go up by 25%. However, people down the street who had larger buildings with more usable space that had recently gone through renovations that were these gorgeous, monstrous buildings, their tax assessed value actually went down. There was no rhyme or reason to it. And so for us, we argued to have our tax assessed value to be lower because it did not equate with the other properties that they had been assessing. Why do you want to have a lower tax assessed value? Because it means you pay less taxes, period. I don't want to have a 25% jump in my taxes if somebody else is going to have a 20% drop in their taxes, even though they invested a boatload of money into that property. Now, they will say that this is how banks are going to loan you money based on that property. That is absolutely false. Why? Because I could have a 25% increase in my property. Somebody else could have a 20% dip in their property, even though their property is worth exponentially more than mine, has improved over time more than mine. It is nonsensical, it is terrible, and it's nothing but a baseline. The bank is putting some actual risk into this. And so the bank is going to do their own assessment. Banks assess a property in West Palm Beach at exponentially more, no matter how you cut it, than $18 million. For the thousands and tens of thousands of square feet, for the 26 acres in West Palm Beach, you're talking about fractions of an acre selling for millions of dollars on the ocean. And Donald Trump has 26 acres, ocean to ocean, or waterway to waterway, whatever it is. So this is obviously false. It's a false claim to say that it was worth $18 million. So I digress. He told reporters that Engoron ruled against me before he even got the case. He said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. This is talking about Letitia James, who came out in her weekly hostage video, is basically what it looked like. And she was saying the judge knew that. She openly said this on video, and I probably should have pulled the video before I did this one. But either way, she openly said on the video that the judge had decided the case before it even began. Now, I don't know if you all are familiar with the American legal system, but in the American legal system, you are innocent until proven guilty. And when a judge comes out and says, I've already decided on this case, when he tells the attorney general, I've already made a decision on this case, that should bar you from taking part in that. It should disqualify you from taking part in that legal process because you are making a foregone conclusion about how you were going to rule before hearing the evidence, before seeing any of the evidence. That is partisan political lawfare, if there ever was partisan political lawfare. And so that was what Trump was up against. And even though the banks came out and said he was a great customer, said they got all of their money, so they got repaid with interest, the judge still ruled against Donald Trump and is now saying it's $360 million. Trump said $355 million. I was looking at USA Today, and they said it was $453 million. So there's a lot of numbers that are out there. And right now, the only total that I have found is around $530 million. So we know exactly what they are trying to do. They are trying to erode his net worth. They are trying to make him sell off his companies. And in fact, Judge Engoron said that Donald Trump can't run a business in New York for 3 years. This is the guy who was the real estate mogul in New York, the guy who brought New York back from the brink of destruction, started developing in that city, turned it into a powerhouse once again. And they're saying, nope, you can't do business here anymore. Because you have to add in the $83.3 million that they say he's supposed to give to E. Jean Carroll, the crazy lady who paints rocks out in the woods, raises mice or whatever it is she does, and the absolute weirdo who went on and was just ranting and raving about how wonderful it was to have all this money, and who was provably lying inside of a trial. But that's hardly relevant when you're talking about political prosecution. So do I think that this is actually going to, that all this money is going to get paid out? No. But what they are trying to do is bury him in legal fees. And if they bury the guy in legal fees, then he's not out campaigning. If they, and not just legal fees, but having him in court. They are eroding the money that he's bringing in, which is massive amounts of money for his campaign. They are eroding that and making him spend it elsewhere rather than on the campaign trail. But what have we seen consistently? People are rallying behind Donald Trump at an absolutely ridiculous clip, and it's heartwarming to see. It's heartwarming to see that the American people realize he's being screwed over, that the American people still want that America First agenda. We want that American First agenda because the side effects of the America Last agenda, if you want to call it that, or really just the Democrat Party's agenda, is this illegal immigration that is bringing drugs and criminals into our communities. It is the inflation of our currency. It's the erosion of our 401ks, of our life savings, of our property. All of these things are wrecking our day-to-day lives. And so people want to back the pony that's going to win the race. They're backing the horse that's going to win the race. And Donald Trump is the guy right now because he is going to come in with a bit of vengeance. And I don't mean vengeance in a, people love to say the dictator comment that he made. We could obviously tell that was tongue-in-cheek. That's something that the media knows about Donald Trump, but they'll never admit, is that he says things like that kind of tongue-in-cheek. And yeah, he's the leader of the free world. Should he say it? No. But does he say it? Yes. Can we all read between the lines and understand what he actually means? Yes. But they're going to take it at pure face value. Some people you can do that. Some people you can't. Donald Trump is the guy who, I don't know if you ever knew the person who would say something and everybody would laugh or everybody would roll their eyes because it's just Donnie saying that. But none of us could get away with that sort of thing. That's kind of the way Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is the guy who says he's not managed by a political filter. He's not managed by by handlers, people that are telling him what to and not to say. He is firing out whatever he wants to say on his Truth Social handle. It's getting reposted by all of his kids. It's an unfiltered, presidential candidate, which is something we are unaccustomed to. We've always seen this cool, measured, delivery, and very, it's people that say, this is what I'm going to put out on my Twitter account, and it's looked over by 100 staffers, and everybody's analyzing it. Oh, well, this person could be offended by that. Donald Trump doesn't care. Vivek Ramaswamy didn't care. Vivek Ramaswamy said what was on his mind. Donald Trump says what's on his mind. Well, why are they so afraid of Donald Trump? Well, there's a lot of reasons, I believe. But one of the big ones is changing the Electoral College. So they know that if Donald Trump gets in, the border is going to start to be shut down, and he is going to start deporting people. I would venture to say at an epic level. I think that the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that will be deported are going to be detrimental to the Republican Party, but it's necessary for our national security. But it's something that the Democrats are going to run on, obviously, down the road. But he's going to come in, I believe, and actually get something done with immigration, because he will control the law enforcement personnel that can actually make this happen. Now, whether or not they obey or not is a different issue, because the deep state is still rooted in the FBI, in the DHS, in the CBP. All of these places have political operatives inside of them that, just like we saw in Syria when Trump was trying to get us out of Syria, people were actively disobeying the orders of the President of the United States. And right now we have, if you want my honest opinion, these people at the border, they have legitimate cause to disobey President Joe Biden. And they have that because when you are in law enforcement, or you are in the military, or you are working for the federal government, you are not bound to follow orders that are immoral, unethical, or illegal. And human smuggling into the country is immoral, unethical, and illegal. So these people are not bound to do it, but they know that if they push back, then they could lose their job and all of these things. Well, in my opinion, when that happens, you should just lose your job. You should quit. You should not be doing that. But a paycheck is more important to them than trafficking people into middle America and into flyover country. And I highlighted a town not too long ago. It was a town of 15,000 people, and that town had 1,000 illegal immigrants. So they want and they need illegal immigrants in middle America. They need to have them within this network of nonprofits and people that are pushing them to different areas around the country, so that they can shift our political landscape and use people that are non-citizens to do this. So in 2021, President Biden, he made it a requirement that the U.S. Census Bureau factor in all residents, including non-citizens, as part of the U.S. population. And what does that do? That means that through redistricting, which, if you remember the video I highlighted a while back, there's a congresswoman from New York, and she said, all of my counterparts are saying, no, we don't have any more room. We don't have any more space. But I say, yes, bring them all in. We need more people for redistricting purposes. The more people that you have, and as the population centers change, and as a town goes from, 100,000, or a city goes from 100,000 to 400,000, and I'm exaggerating, but you start redrawing the lines. And as you redraw the lines, you ensure that purple areas become blue, that red areas become purple, and you can manipulate the political landscape. And if you can do that, if you do the math, 16.8 million illegal immigrants, and this comes from the Federation of American Immigration Reform. They estimate that as of June 2023, there are 16.8 million illegal immigrants living in the United States. And so on average, and this is from the Post-Millennial, this is their reporting, on average, each House seat represents 761,168 residents, which means that illegal immigrants would account for 22 seats in the House. Now, we know that the House is capped, right? The House is capped at 435. I'm pretty sure it's 435. Either way, the House is capped with the number of people. But when you have a city like New York that has Republican and Democrat representatives, you can shift these people to areas where you can take those red parts of the state, and you can turn them purple, or you can turn them blue in some cases. And this is their ultimate plan. Now, how is this going to affect the presidential elections? They, if you consider the fact that when you are moving illegal immigrations around, your electoral college numbers are directly related to your representatives in the House. So if you can then sway the number of people that you have in the House, and as the population moves around because of the census, you could be stripping away electoral votes from other places and moving them into your newly created strongholds. This is a ridiculous political ploy. It's quite brilliant, and how flagrant they are with it should be concerning to all of us, how little care they have for the security of Americans. Because I'm going to go back to the security question when it comes to the southern border. Yes, this is for political power. It's to create a House, a Senate, a presidency that is Democrat, that is one party in perpetuity from now until forever and ever. Amen. Right? This is their ultimate goal. But they are willing to do this for them to maintain power at the risk of the death, murder, rape, loss of property, whatever it happens to be, of innocent Americans. And to the people who say that this is a compassion argument, they say this isn't about politics, this is about compassion. This is such a disingenuous argument, first, for many reasons. But first off, we have a vetting process for legal immigrants. When people come across, I'm all about legal immigration. I think the people that we get generally are going to be the best and the brightest. But there is also a vetting process where they are checking these people against Interpol, or they're checking them against other international databases. They're coordinating with those governments to find out about these people, find out if they are linked to drug cartels, if they are linked to organized crime, if they are linked to Islamic extremists, if they are linked to organizations that would seek to overthrow the U.S. federal government, right? And so all that vetting can go through, we can ensure from a security standpoint, because this is done for our safety. It's for the safety of the American people that this is done. And then they are going to go through civics tests, and they are going to learn about our country. They're going to learn about our governance. They're going to learn all the things that most Americans today take for granted, first off, and second off, probably couldn't answer on the same questionnaire. But nonetheless, these immigrants learn about our country. And they come here with a vested interest because they have now put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get their citizenship, to move to America, to start a better life. And when those people come here, the legal immigrants come here, they are above and beyond more successful in many cases than the average American who was born into this, who takes this for granted. So that's what they are trying to stop. They are trying to stop all the people that come here for legitimate reasons. Why? Because when someone owns a business, by and large, they are going to vote a certain way. They aren't going to vote along Democratic lines or Democrat Party lines. They are going to vote along Republican, conservative lines. A lot of these people are coming from places that have conservative cultures, and they relate more to the things that we as conservatives want, and less so with this far left extremism that has kind of invaded our political sphere and has invaded the Democrat Party. Because I'm not going to say that all Democrats are evil. I have people that I talk to that definitely do. They go pretty hard in the paint against Democrats. I think that there's a large portion of Democrats who don't buy into all the craziness. I think there's a large portion of Democrats who really just don't know. They don't pay a ton of attention. They've probably voted Democrat for a really long time. They are focused on their family and their faith, and they're focused on things that don't ever steer their attention into the craziness that has become the Democrat Party. So those are the people that I would love to capture. I would love for people to say that, okay, yeah, now the Democrat Party has left me behind and I'm more towards the center. But I digress. I apologize for that digression. I guess that's the word. But they are not concerned. The Democrat Party right now is not concerned about the security of the American people. And I'm going to go back to the point I was making about these nonprofits and these people who say that this is not a political issue. This is about compassion, or this is a decency issue. You have to take some responsibility. If you are going on your social media and you are saying that this is about compassion, it's not about politics, and you are advocating and helping, doing your little part to sway public opinion towards opening up the southern border and allowing la-di-da-di everybody in, knowing that coming across the border are military-age males. I've shown the videos on here. You can go to X, you can go to Instagram, you can go to any platform you like, and you will see tens and tens of thousands of illegal immigrants, men, military-age men, waiting at the border. And the expression I always use is when men flee, they go alone, or take their families. When men go to war, they come alone. We are getting people from the Middle East who are hostile to our country. We're getting people from North Africa who are hostile to our country. We are getting Chinese nationals. We are getting all of these criminal elements coming across the southern border, people from the drug cartels, human traffickers, human smugglers. You have to assume some responsibility. If you believe that it should be unfettered access and you only want to think about the widows and orphans, which is a small number relative to the number of people who've come across, that's a small number, you also have to bear some responsibility for every rape, murder, robbery, carjacking, mass shooting, whatever it happens to be. You are the one advocating for that. Because what's the opposing position? The opposing position is, yes, I agree with you. Let's allow people to come across the border, but we vet them. We make sure that these people are not going to pose a risk to our citizens, the people to whom we bear the greatest responsibility, or we have the greatest responsibility. So nonetheless, this is why they're going after Donald Trump. This is why they are trying to keep him out of the White House. This is why they are trying to make him bleed all of his campaign support, is because they care more about redistricting than they do about the safety and security of the American people. And it plays well. I'll be perfectly honest. It does play well. Now, it's not just the people, but it's the drugs. Where there's, sadly, wherever there's massive immigration, there's going to be drugs when it comes to our southern border. And Montana, right now, last best place in America, as they call themselves, massive amounts of fentanyl and methamphetamines are making their way into Montana. 700,000 fentanyl-laced pills and 2,000 pounds of meth have made it in across the southern border into Montana just over the past few years. And who's it hitting? It's hitting the Native American reservations very hard. Why is that a concern? Well, aside from the obvious, Native Americans they've been on their reservations for a very long time. They made their decisions years ago, and we gave them things like casinos where they could generate money outside of doing whatever it is they do, and it's outside of their small businesses and all of that. They have some of their own law enforcement. They have certain ways that they work in cooperation with the U.S. federal government, but they have some places where they stand alone. But even though we gave them the casinos, even though we gave them, across all of them, billions and billions of dollars in revenue, that money, as often happens when you put people in a circumstance like that, there is rampant poverty. And so that money does not make its way down to the people as it should. And John Stossel several years ago did a very, very good expose on Native American tribes and how different tribes were basically helping their people, how they were leveraging federal money in some cases. People were, some of them were using the casino money properly. Some people it was just rampant corruption, and their people were destitute, but they had multimillionaires and billionaires who were taking all those profits for themselves. But nonetheless, when you have rampant poverty, drug crime is going to be there, drugs are going to be there, people coping with those difficult circumstances. It's going to go alcohol, drugs, and these are very, very serious problems on Native American reservations. And so hundreds of thousands of fentanyl pills, fentanyl-laced pills, and thousands of pounds of meth are making their way into Montana. And why is that? Well, according to this article from NBC News, it's strictly about the money. The further you get away, this is simple logistics, the further you get away from your point of supply, the more expensive that product becomes. The more rare it is, there's a supply and demand issue, so they're charging exponentially more money for these products. And so it behooves them to go into rural America, into middle America, to improve their profit margins. Fentanyl is a lot of bang for their buck. They can use carry a small amount of fentanyl, and it goes a very, very long way. They can addict a whole lot of people, and they can make way more money. So this is how it's impacting. And it's not just in Montana, but it's in Tennessee. It's in other rural states or states with a lot of a large rural population. They care more about redrawing electoral maps, about maintaining political power than they do about the security of the American people. And then the ideology, I was tempted not to get into this, but I think I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. Leftist ideology is even making its way into conservative states' politics. 19 19 Wyoming Republicans, they voted to block a bill to legally define a man and a woman. And that's shocking. This is House Bill 50, known as the What is a Woman Act, would have defined people based on the sex in which they were born, and would have banned people from using public accommodations such as restrooms different from their birth sex. Additionally, the bill would have required any school district, state agency, department, office, or other political subdivision that collects vital statistics as a means of gathering information related to crime, public health, and economic status to define an individual as male or female consistent with the person's sex at birth. The bill had 15 Republican co-sponsors, and yet it still failed to pass. This is the common sense of conservatism, right? I always say that we have a very easy argument to make. We believe men are men, women are women, children shouldn't see pornography, you shouldn't be, transitioning genders and mutilating children, giving them cancer-causing drugs. We shouldn't be doing all these things. This is obvious. Freedom of speech, whether you are left or right, you should be allowed to speak your mind in the public forum. In the public forum, in my opinion, in places like X and Facebook and all that, the things that have been are now the centralized platforms around which we can speak, and that we have a Second Amendment. We should have the Second Amendment for la-di-da-di everybody. There shouldn't be any restrictions. I mean, these are common sense things that conservatives believe. If it's written in the Constitution, the Constitution is our safeguard against government regulation of our rights. But now this ideology has made its way into the Republican Party. And if you've never heard me before, I always call it the big R Republicans and the Democrats. This is the uniparty, right? The big R Republicans, they have that next to their name. Some of them are actual conservatives. Others are unipartians. And those unipartians have to be identified, called out, and voted out. And eventually that's going to be what happens. But these people carry a lot of the same ideology or are okay playing the same game as the Democrats when it comes to things like this, gender ideology. No. It's not politically expedient enough for us to define what a man and a woman is. And that's weird. And that's troubling. But this is how the ideology spreads. We have to be spreading the ideology of freedom, liberty, and common sense of all things. Now, what used to be, this is kind of the segue I wanted to make. After listing out all of these things, when we talk about a corrupt justice system, we talk about an open border, we talk about a government that's willing to seize power rather than, it's more interested in seizing power than it is securing the population. What used to be the thing that we would kind of circle our wagons around to get, in a lot of ways, just to get our worldview? The family. I'll talk family first. So schools now are assuming a greater role in rearing children than the families are. A lot of this came from, when we started to have, and now it's almost a necessity to have two-income households. The father and the mother are both working. They are spending more time away from the families, and the kids are being raised in the schools. And the teachers are being empowered to say, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't talk about this with your parents. Maybe you should just talk about it to me. And that person then becomes a ward of the state, in my opinion. In their function, they are saying it is better for you to confide in the state than it is for you to confide in your birth parents, in your mother and father, your biological parents. They'll tell them things like, they'll tell the kids that the parents don't know any better. The parents don't understand you like I understand you. And so we have kids who are willing to confide in strangers and wards of the state over their own parents. And then the parents themselves, we see divorce as a rampant problem. So even though these kids may have two parents, or undoubtedly have two parents, but they have two parents with whom they communicate, now they are stuck in the middle of conflict when you talk about divorce. And over half of our marriage is ending in divorce. And this is causing multiple issues with these youngsters in acceptance, in understanding, especially parents pitting one person against the other. And this causes them to seek acceptance from one place or another, and it pushes them into very, very dangerous territory. Young women I worry about the most, and that's, you have the over-sexualization of women, you have OnlyFans, you have women that are seeking acceptance for people on the internet versus getting the acceptance from a loving mother and father who are joined together in marriage. And then the next piece is the church. We've gotten to a point now where atheism and agnosticism and even devil worship are becoming the new hip things for our people. We used to have the church community, or at least people that had some faith in God. They were able to, turn to that in times of difficulty, and that gave them kind of a path to walk along. And even if they were straying from that path that was always there, it was something that they always knew and they could come back to. And now we have people like, what's her name? Ice Spice is one person, but hanging out with Taylor Swift, the most popular pop star in the world. And this is at the Super Bowl. And this is the type of thing that children are being exposed to. Not that this is necessarily overt, but she saw the Jumbotron on her, and what's she doing? You see Taylor Swift taking shots. You see Taylor Swift taking friend taking shots. You see this woman giving satanic hand symbols with an upside-down cross for everybody to see. And this is the normalization of what was otherwise deemed evil, wrong, amoral, or immoral. But now it's become the norm. Now, I believe in people's right to practice whatever religion they want, even though that I believe that satanic worship is probably a dangerous arena for one to get themselves in. But in this country, you can worship who you want and do what you want. But it's not just Ice Spice at the Super Bowl. This is Balenciaga, and this is other companies that are promoting pedophilia and things that are antithetical to our Judeo-Christian principles. Did they have to erode the church because the church and our Judeo-Christian principles are what justified our Constitution? It's why our Constitution was written, or not why it was written, but it was the framework for our Constitution. Rights given to you at birth from your Creator. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And so those principles have to be eroded. If they want to make the Constitution a document that can be thrown away, that they can use to wipe their feet on when they come in the house every day, then they have to erode the basis for that, which is Judeo-Christian principles, the church. And they have to they go as far as to vilify the church. So it's not a simple First Amendment issue. They have to say that the church is evil, that it applies a moral compass to the youth. They're not allowed to just go out and explore and enjoy their deepest, darkest desires as they see fit, even though many of them do. And so you take away that moral compass, and it's easier to veer people off the path that we've been on for 247 years and towards their new version of the world. And there's a few others that I'll talk about. We've talked about the justice system. I mean, you can look at Donald Trump and the lawfare that's going on with him, but you can also look at just general patriotism. This flag that's over my shoulder, this is something for the past 5-10 years that they have started to portray as a symbol of white supremacy, colonialization, evil. I mean, they have vilified the symbol of freedom and liberty in every conceivable way. And they have to do that because to make you believe that this country is evil, is a colonializing country, is racist or bigoted or white supremacist, then if you believe that that actually stands for freedom, then there's no way that you're going to believe in the fundamental transformation or buy into the fundamental transformation of this country into the one that they want. And so the last thing I'm going to say is the public square. Now, there's a lot of debate that goes on around this, whether private companies or not. And I am making somewhat of an emotional plea about this, but it's because, the public square is a place where we can express our opinions, and people can come and listen to me. They can listen to somebody else, and they can make their own determination. They can find out if my way of thinking is the way that they want to go, or if they want to, stay buried in their echo chamber with their way of thinking. That's fine. But nonetheless, it has to be an equal playing field, and there is not an equal playing field through shadow banning and other things that are limiting the voice of one side of the political spectrum so that they can continue to push a narrative on the other side that's ultimately going to get them to the fundamental transformation of our country into something other than what we have enjoyed for the past 247 years. So what can we do? We are the ones that are still believing, as conservatives, we still believe in the power of family. We still believe in God. We still believe in patriotism. We still love our country, and we love the people in this country, even the ones with whom we vehemently disagree. We believe that our national sovereignty is something worth fighting for. We believe that our justice system should still be Lady Justice with a blindfold. And sad for those people who aren't doing it, but by and large, conservatives are the ones who are having children. Conservatives are the ones who are visiting their churches on a weekly basis. They're the ones who are turning their lives back towards God and away from, the government. We're turning ourselves away from worshiping the creation and going towards the Creator. Other people are going in the opposite direction. Our job is to try to pull as many of those people as we can over to the right side of this, while still recognizing they have the freedom to live how they want to live. It's a difficult circumstance, but our argument is the easiest one to make. I believe you should be able to live your life as you see fit, and I don't believe that the government has any place in interfering with that. So continue to have families. Continue to go to church. Continue to speak out. Speak your mind openly. And we have to do so. I'm guilty of this. On many occasions, I speak out far too aggressively, and that's not going to win anybody over. I'm trying to center myself into a position where I can make a passionate argument for conservatism, for America First values, by saying that it's not because I want to take away something from someone. I just want everybody to have the same freedoms as we did many, many years ago before this massive amount of government overreach started to erode our freedoms. And that's my message for you all today. You all can do your part. You can join here. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for bearing with me this long. Be sure to like, comment. I lost my train of thought. Like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X Locals, Rumble, and YouTube. Thank you all so much. God bless you, and we'll see you in the next episode.